me do it.
Okay, Josh, what's your sound check?
There was once a man who was quite crass. His balls were made of brass, and when he walked, they rubbed together and made quite the weather, and light shone out of his ass.
That does.
It's
Those
a
are not
Dirty
even in. They don't even have the same syllables in each stanza. That doesn't
matter.
even make sense.
That's-
Have you
I
ever heard a
job.
limerick before? This is meta. This won't be in the show. Hello and welcome to 505, where 5 guys talk about games for $5. This week we are talking about 1999's Roller Coaster Tycoon. I have with me first the master of minutia, the protector of pointless facts, and the Situation Room's own to Headhunter, aka Skylar. Skylar.
Today,
Thanks for joining us.
my pointless fact of the day is that the next two intros are awful.
Hey!
Aw, well now
I
you're
only
just setting
wrote one
people's
of them,
expectations low.
Wah, wah, wah.
I also have joining me the man who voted... Oh, damn it. I also have joining me the man voted most like... God damn it, Skylar. You cursed it. I also have with me the man voted most likely to politely drive a 400 horsepower car at the speed limit, Subtotal Broom, aka Evan.
Sir Lancelot once had a very bad dream about his horse. It was a nightmare.
Hey,
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
B, are you even old enough to drive?
What? Maybe.
Ouch. Okay. I also have with me the man voted most likely to wonder why his brother would ever go to a car show, Night Train, a.k.a. Jordan.
Happy to be here, yes. Evan and I were going to go skiing yesterday, but it was snowing like crazy and the weather was terrible, so Evan went to a car show.
Why would you ever go skiing when it's snowing? Oh, wait, that's the whole point of going skiing.
yeah, thank you, Sean.
It was like snowing like crazy, so it'd be hard to get there.
Damn it,
and
I hate skiing when there's snow.
Bad weather for skiing.
I like skiing on rocks instead. It's
Oh
pretty
yeah, seriously, Jordan Culture 2013, snow is bad weather for skiing.
Fucking blizzard! Alright, you know what, guys.
Fucking Blizz, fix your game.
Yeah, Blizz, GG, bad snow report. I also have joining us today the leader of the Church of Gaben. Praise be to his beard.
Praise be to his
Danger Whisk, a.k.a. Josh. That was the worst scripted intro ever.
You guys are terrible.
Josh, are you going to protect us from the rage of Gaben because we got our prayer wrong?
I will, and I will have you know that it's not the beard on the outside that counts. It's the beard on the inside. Dropping a bit of,
Esophagus beard is flourishing.
dropping a bit of old school Dexter's Lab right there.
Yeah.
I'm always okay with old school Dexter's Lab.
Oh, man. Okay.
Fromage? Anyone?
We also have with us a special guest today, Sultan of the Swinging Ship, Baroness of the Bumper Cars, and Countess of the Coasters, Jessica, a.k.a. Jessica. Jessica, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
For the rest of the show, Jordan will now be known as Jessica's girlfriend. Or boyfriend.
Jessica's girlfriend is fine too. I like that.
Hey now.
So,
the
yeah.
Jessica, and I can take her away just as quickly.
And then you'll still be known as Jessica's boyfriend for the rest of the show.
Girlfriend.
Jessica, do you have thoughts on that input on Jordan taking you away?
He doesn't own me. I can do
Yeah.
it.
There we go. Here, wait, Skylar, you have to do the snaps
Oh, right, sorry.
when you agree. Yeah. Okay,
Jessica,
okay.
when you make Jordan bake cookies, you make him wear that little apron, the one with the flowers on it.
I usually wear the apron. I think it looks cuter on me.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I'm sure it
edible.
does. I'm pretty sure.
To each their own.
So we learned about Josh's true desires for Jordan today on Soap of the Five.
Yeah,
Okay, so we have Jessica here because she's a huge fan of Roller Coaster Tycoon. She's played it a ton. We're gonna have a special segment for her talking about the casual gamer's perspective because she doesn't play a ton of other games. So we thought that'd be kind of a cool addition to try. So let's launch right into the story here. I mean, there's not really a story. I tried to story it up a little bit, but really it was just game
In
mechanic
a world.
explanation. In a world where you need to build roller coasters. So you assume the role of a titan of industry, a faceless, nameless tycoon charged with creating an amusement park able to fulfill the requirements of each scenario. Most scenarios center around having a certain number of guests in your park, a certain park rating over time, or a high level of income. More difficult scenarios in the expansion packs complicated these by adding more specific objectives to have roller coasters of certain lengths or other things.
Or
At the beginning of
kill
each
this number
scenario...
of pedestrians.
No, that only that only happens in Call of Duty Roller Coaster Tycoon edition. At the beginning of each scenario, you are given a patch of land or a fledgling amusement park with the goal of attracting as many guests to your park as possible. You can either charge admission to the park, which will make your rides free, or take the approach to let people in for free but charge them per ride, aka the Skylar nickel and dime approach.
What?
You can also sell rides or assets in the starting park for initial cash and take out a loan which you pay interest on over time.
No,
Do you have thoughts on Skylar's nickel and diming, Jordan?
No, yeah, okay, come on now. You charge them to get in, and then you charge them for the rides.
Yeah.
Right. It's also called the Six Flags approach.
We don't like the free-to-play approach. We don't like these damn microtransactions.
Or the other thing you do is what I did, where you create a roller coaster, you get a lot of people in line, and then you delete the path that lets it get to the regular path, and then you chag it up to like $50 per ride. So, yeah, that's one thing you can do. There are different categories of rides. There are gentle rides, junior rides, transport rides, roller coasters, thrill rides, and water rides. You can also build shops. Yes, there are roller coasters.
In a
Spoiler
game called
alert,
Roller
guys.
Coaster Tycoon.
I know,
I'm sorry,
spoiler
I'm
alert.
Interrupting your story.
If you don't want to be spoiled, then fast forward in the podcast to the story of Roller Coaster Tycoon. The key to Roller Coaster Tycoon is having a diverse park. Guests have different affinities for different rides, and if you can't satisfy them, they leave with their money in hand. You also have to hire and manage cleaning, maintenance, security, and entertainment staff, all while staying under budget.
Jessica knows how that is
so-
when she's dealing with Jordan.
Hey now.
She
has to-
She leaves with money in hand.
She has to have a
As you go.
security detail. So anyway, let's walk on down to the situation room. I know Skylar was a
You have
little
to take
upset
the
with having to
submarine
find
to the space elevator.
to find anything about 1999 apparently, because that doesn't exist
I
on the
found
internet.
things.
Okay, here we go. Here's the bumper.
Boom.
From Colorado's news leader,
This is the Situation Room with Skylar. God help us all.
God help us all, indeed. Skylar had to do some work this week and find more stuff from 1999. So, Skylar, what did you end up finding after your long search right before the show when you panicked?
Yeah, if by work you mean like 3 extra minutes, then yes. But those 3 minutes delivered wonderful things, like the world's largest washboard. Our good friends, the Columbus Washboard Company, were having some business problems. So they built the world's largest washboard, which I guess didn't help. In addition to that, I found some cool number statistics. In 1999, the number of internet users in the world, could anyone have any guesses?
5.
150 million.
I was going to say 100 million.
Wow.
That would have been my guess.
Today, number of internet users in the world,
5
billion. 2 billion.
5 million. Yeah.
Oh, so
yeah,
close.
internet.
Yeah, right? So 12 years, like 1,000% increase or whatever.
Also, no more AOL. So that's.
I was actually just about to talk about that.
AOL's still around, actually.
That are gone now. AOL, number 1. Even though actually
Well-
it still has a good amount of users.
AOL is still around, but you don't have to log into it to access the internet, is what I meant.
Yeah, more interestingly though, Alta Vista and GeoCities, you may remember, both don't exist anymore.
GeoCities, you mean?
Or GeoCities, thank you.
I had a GeoCities like Pokemon fan site that I made when I was like 10 years old. That was what I spent my 10-year-old time doing.
Things that didn't exist in 1999, Google was a startup that had like no one. Apple also had nothing because iTunes hadn't even come out yet.
Apple was around.
It was around, but they didn't make that much money because there was no iTunes, and that's where they really started making money.
Well, this was in the Steve Jobs lull, wasn't it? Where like they fired him and then they sucked for a while and then he came back, right?
I'm pretty sure. So yeah, and then last but not least, well, also Futurama started in 1999. Thought I'd throw that one in there. And then the most exciting of all, I need one of you to pick a number between 1,220 and 1,284.
1,222.
Okay. This is the 1999 UN resolution on the situation in Croatia. Let's see, what do we have here? Well,
Jesus
the
Christ.
joint declaration signed at the Geneva Convention relates because it was signed by the president of Croatia and the former Republic of Yugoslavia. It looks like the
Like
UN
most
is
things
going to
are.
decide to remain seized of the matter of the situation in Croatia in 1999.
Of the Situation Room in
Wow.
Croatia.
Yes, that is actually where it is.
Skylar, I gotta say, I am impressed at the complete and utter randomness of everything you laid out. Honestly, that was well random.
Thank you. There's more UN resolutions if we want. Like the rest
Yeah,
of I can just read UN resolutions.
No. Spin-off show. That's going to be our spin-off show next time.
Skylar reads the UN.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, let's move on to the history segment. We don't have something for that because I don't care enough to make a bumper. So, Jordan, you want to start off with the history section?
You know, if
It's not history is Jordan.
if I were a petty man, I might say that the fact that Skylar gets to Google anything he feels like and ramble for 3 minutes, while I have to spend time meticulously poring over Wikipedia and other websites to find actual, factual, relevant information, and he gets a bumper and I don't. If I were petty, I might have some problems with that.
Welcome to how capitalism treats the public school system, Jordan.
There you go.
Just did capitalism this week. Okay, all right. So, Roller Coaster Tycoon Deluxe, which we got, is the first of the Roller Coaster Tycoon series, which has 2 sequels, Roller Coaster Tycoon and Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 and 3. Multiple expansions for all of those, and then Roller Coaster 3D for the Nintendo DS was just released in October of 2012. This game is the brainchild of Scottish designer Chris Sawyer, who created it on his own as a sequel to his game Transport Tycoon, which released in 1994. Sawyer has been in the video games industry, since 1983. It is rumored that Sawyer took 4 years to complete this game, as he did it with him. He had like one guy who did the music and one guy who did the art, and everything else was all this one guy. Sawyer has had a role in the development of all the Roller Coaster Tycoon games released after that, and he
Even
released.
the most current one?
Yeah, he was like an advisor. He didn't play an active development role, but he had a role in it.
Very cool.
And he released a sequel to Transport Tycoon in 2004 known as Chris Sawyer's Locomotion. Roller Coaster Tycoon was written almost entirely in assembly language, which Skylar's going to knowledge bomb on in a second, and it was released in March of 1999.
Okay. So the fact that this is written in assembly language is ridiculous, because even writing pretty simple programs in assembly language takes a really long time, which probably explains why it took 4 years to develop. But anyway, assembly language is basically when you write programming language like C or C++ people may have heard of, you write that language, then you run it through a compiler, which makes the language readable to the computer, and the compiler converts it into assembly language. And that's like the like bridge between human readable programming and ones and zeros that the computer reads. So it's basically the lowest level you can program at without just writing ones and zeros. So it's really cool.
Dat ones and zeros.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it
Also,
is it possible to code in ones and zeros? Like, would that just take an inordinate
if you
amount of time? But
memorize,
it's possible.
yeah, it's definitely possible. It's just dumb.
If you were fluent in binary.
Yes.
Good to see you're putting that computer science degree to use, Skylar. Okay, so
I have
Sawyer.
a job, thank you.
Also, not gonna lie, as somebody who works as a game designer, putting out a game of this size by yourself, regardless of if it took 4 years, really impressive.
Especially in 1999, when like indie game and small company industry wasn't there.
Well, there was
Exactly. No
no
Kickstarter
online
back
distribution. Yeah, there was no online distribution. There was no like he had to like box it and sell it in stores. I think that's the most impressive part.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, ready? Good segue, because he received $30 million of the $180 million that the game made. And he also sued Atari in like 2006. As he claimed that they failed to pay him royalties on the series. They eventually settled out of court in 2008. So while that may have taken a ridiculous amount of time and effort, he is definitely not ever going to have to work a day in his life again.
Well, because Atari bought like the publisher that bought his publisher that bought his publisher or whatever, something like that. So like he didn't want to be bought by Atari, but like the person who boxed it and distributed it for him, like they got bought by someone who got bought by Atari or whatever. And then when they made 3, they basically were like, we're going to use this IP and fuck you. And then there was a whole debacle about it.
And you can't do that legally.
So they settled out of court for, I assume, a ludicrously large amount of money. Something interesting I found on Wikipedia is that Sony has picked up the rights to produce a movie based on the Roller Coaster Tycoon franchise. That is supposedly it has writers that were listed, and it's supposedly going to be half live action and half CGI. Couldn't find anything else about it, but theoretically that exists somewhere.
I found a movie called Roller Coaster from 1977 about terrorism.
Yes.
Okay, probably not
That's what it's going to be about. It's going to be like a John McClane style, like someone's taking over a theme park and you have to
Someone
stop.
has the bomb on the roller coaster.
John McClane, they've taken over the theme park, and you also need to raise its rating by 650 and get 132 guests by the time the movie's over.
Oh my god, this needs to be a real movie.
No,
Okay.
No, last thing I was just to say is the reviews that I found put it in the high 80s. It got an 8.6 on GameSpot and an 8.5 on IGN. There were minor complaints about the lack of a sandbox mode, which there is actually if you dig for it in, I think, the Wild Landscapes or whatever one. And they also, people complained a lot about a lack of a fast forward option, like to speed up time, which I thought was a fairly valid
Oh
complaint.
yeah, because SimCity had that, so people probably wanted that. That made sense.
Well,
Yeah,
then I was thinking that it's like, I remember playing a ton of Zoo Tycoon 2, which is way more modern, and that didn't have a fast forward either. So, anyway.
No,
Clearly, the
I was-
developer hates the ability to fast forward.
Right?
Well, I was reading an interview to get ready for the show where he was talking about how he knew that people wanted those, and they were both gameplay decisions. For the sandbox mode, it was he felt like because it's a game, and this just shows how far development's come since then. I think like he felt like the most defining feature of a game was having limitations and goals, and so if you give people some sort of creative mode, that takes away from making it a game, and it just makes it like a tool.
Yeah,
which
Notch.
I think
That's why everyone hates your game.
yeah, that's why everyone hates Minecraft, exactly. And then
Nobody
the
plays
fast
that.
forward options were kind of the same reason, was he felt like it was a gameplay decision. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but
So,
go figure.
the only other thing that I saw complained about fair amount was like the weird angles that like the isometric view caused that
Mhm.
made, designing roller coasters kind of difficult.
Yeah, that was annoying.
The depth of view was
Yeah.
weird. It was hard to see what was in front of stuff and behind stuff and things like that.
Evan had to leave us here. He actually got called into work, so the rest of the show is without him, but we had him do a quick attack and a what he's been playing segment before he left, so we'll throw that on the end of the show. Okay, back to the show.
Okay, so let's move on to the history segment. We're going to have Jessica talk first about how she got into Roller Coaster Tycoon, how she started playing it, and then maybe like what's got her coming back to it every now and then over time. So why don't you start off with that, Jess?
All right. Well, Roller Coaster Tycoon is actually one of my first video games. And I actually got started on it because my dad was playing it. Most of the video games that I got into were mostly from watching my dad play them. So that's how I got into most of the video games that I got into. I really liked kind of the freedom of creativity these kinds of games can give you. That's what kind of has me coming back to these kinds of games, is kind of I feel like I can be creative. I'm not drawn down by a certain objective, and that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Does the fact that there's no like sandbox mode make you mad then?
Not really, because even though there are objectives, you can still build whatever you kind of want to build, you know?
Okay, so Jordan, do you want to pick up where Jess left off? What's your history with games like this?
So I have a pretty extensive history. Kind of when we talked about when we did, what did we do?
So was our age of whatever.
Yeah, that like simulation games have been definitely kind of a staple in my diet of video gaming that I started with since I was a wee lad.
Stapling died of it. You should have said staple in the head of your son of video gaming.
What?
What?
That doesn't make any sense. Okay,
A
so
violent stapling metaphor rather than a diet metaphor.
These games were always kind of fun to me because much like, historical games where you're kind of living out actual history, these have a lot more kind of, I think, realistic grounding to them. And while my ability to, design a roller coaster that doesn't explode in a 1999 video game certainly doesn't translate to me being able to design one, in real life, I think that kind of, grounding in reality kind of thing makes these games fun. And I think, a lot of the appeal of these is that, they're as complicated as you want to make them. So I was remarkably surprised at how easily I was able to come back to this game. So like I played Zoo Tycoon 2 was a big phase that I had. I've played, I think, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. I don't think I'd ever played the original. But with games like this, I was really surprised at how, still I was enjoying it and having fun playing the old one, despite the fact that I hadn't played the old one. And I was kind of more used to the modern iterations. So I have a long history with these types of games is the moral of that story.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. Josh, what about you?
I played Roller Coaster Tycoon when it came out. I definitely played all the sim games and all those, but I'm not sure those are all that applicable. But, I was never big into the Tycoon scene. I played Roller Coaster Tycoon and most of the expansions when it first dropped, back in the 1999, dating myself. But, then there was Zoo Tycoon and Prison Tycoon and Fast Food Tycoon, and I just never really got
Sweatshop
into
Tycoon.
those. Right, Sweatshop Tycoon.
Nuclear Power Plant Tycoon.
Tycoon Games Tycoon.
Also, for the record, Sweatshop Tycoon's a real game that just got pulled off the Apple iOS store.
I did indeed know that.
Did you read that? Wasn't that amazing?
But that I played the original Roller Coaster Tycoon, the one we played now. Also, so happy that was like $1.99.
I think my favorite thing to come out of that Apple sweatshop thing pulling it was the quote about how they think that games shouldn't make social commentary. They're there to be fun or whatever. And I thought that was so Apple to say that.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Okay, Skylar, what's your history? This is not the games issues show, so I won't delve on it too much. What's your history with games like this?
I haven't I don't know. I played it when it came out, like I said. I think I played the 2 like Jordan. I don't think I've ever played the original. But yeah, I liked it when I was little. I actually think I liked sandbox games in general a lot more when I was younger because now I get bored of them really fast. But my favorite sandbox game that I played was Theme Hospital. I don't know if any of you have ever played that. It's not made by the Tycoon people. But it's really good. And I think I might make us do it sometime on the show because it's under $5. But
that was Bullfrog, wasn't it? They made Theme Park and Theme Hospital and Theme all the theme games, right?
Any of the other theme games I played, I didn't like, but Theme Hospital was so good. People would just have ridiculous diseases they made up, and it was just really fun. I don't know. I played it a lot when I was little, and
so it was like a real hospital post WebMD.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I don't know. I barely play sandbox games anymore. The only sandbox game I really play nowadays is Minecraft, and that's even very, very rarely.
Interesting.
I'm too OCD sandbox games. I get too bored. I need direction.
Well, I think
that's funny because I think
that's a topic for a bigger day, but I do think that there's a way that games condition generations to like something more or less, and I've noticed that changing over time. So I think that now it's a lot more focused on, you don't have control, the game has control, you're directed, you're shown a lot of very specific objectives. I think that's kind of, and it's not that sandbox games don't exist anymore, but it's almost like that wave has kind of ridden itself out, and now we want something different.
That's true, but what's funny is I play tons of fighting games, and those are basically sandbox games. You have a limited set of moves, but you're choosing what you're doing at any time. So I just think it's funny that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's always a combo that's the most optimal to do.
Kind of, but I don't practice enough to be at that.
Skylar's
point.
an innovator, Josh. He comes up with his own combos.
Fighting games are an art to Skylar.
Fighting games are an
exactly.
art. Everyone.
Anyway, okay. So my history with Roller Coaster Tycoon, this was the first game that I really played that was more than, Math Blaster, Putt Putt, Zoombinis, the level of educational games. I think this was
Zoombinis wasn't deep.
Zoombinis was educational though. I mean, I played it at school. But this was the first game that really kind of hooked me on the computer, because I had a Game Boy and I would play Mario when we went on road trips and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. The first Mario where you had to kill the lion as the first boss?
Yeah,
whatever?
Yeah, exactly. The one that was on the old...
that game.
It wasn't a black and white Game Boy. It was a light green and dark green.
Yeah. That's how all Game Boys were.
Yeah. So... But this game really spoke to me for some reason. I think kind of like Jessica was talking about, I really liked the creativity piece of it. I loved building my own roller coasters. I really liked the like simulation and trying to do a lot of the like really challenging stuff in it when I was a kid. And I think for me, how do I want to say this? What really drew me to this game was a lot of the simulation stuff, but it's not what I like in other games necessarily, which I think I'm hearing that from a lot of other people that like that they don't really like a lot of the other sim. Like I don't really like, Railroad Tycoon or sim anything else really. It's just that this game for some reason really spoke to me, and maybe it was because I liked theme parks or I liked that milieu of it. But I played this game a ton when I was a kid. I spent every day for a long time playing this game. And then Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 came out. I played that, and I had all the expansions. And really the only one I didn't play a lot of was 3. I was kind of out of those types of games by the time 3 came out. But I loved this game when I was a kid. This game is my childhood to me. So
That nostalgia.
I was excited to see it was $1.99 or $2.99 or whatever on
Yep.
GOG. That made me really
It's
happy.
your childhood to you, but what's your childhood to other people?
Broken promises.
Sad.
So many broken
quiet-
promises.
A quiet, boring kid that likes dinosaurs and roller coaster games. That's what it is to everybody else.
No.
Oh, cute little
This is-
Johnny.
Let's be
I
honest,
know.
Sean.
Well,
You were quiet, but you were never boring.
I
aw, thanks,
disagree with
Joshua.
that.
Aw. And just like that,
Well played.
my heart goes back down. Okay, so let's start with some of the top moments, some of the mechanics discussion that we usually do. Jordan, do you want to talk about the coaster building really quick?
Yeah. So on my kind of theme of how impressed I was with this game to kind of be awesome many, many years out, the roller coaster building I thought was probably one of the highlights of the game. Naturally, if it hadn't been, it probably wouldn't have been so successful, seeing as it is kind of the, roller coaster tycoon without good roller coasters is just, kind of coaster tycoon, So,
Kind of like Call of Duty
nice.
without good shooting. Oh wait.
yeah. It'd be buying StarCraft, but without any of the StarCraft races. If your roller coaster sucked,
No
So-
stars and no craft.
yeah, there's crafting, but there's no stars. Anyway, so I was really impressed with the coaster building. The system that they had I thought was actually pretty intuitive, and I kind of went in there. I accidentally clicked the tutorial, and then I was like, no, damn it. I am many, many years older than I should be to learn, to need a tutorial to figure this game out. So I just went in there, and, it had this great kind of experimentation to it, where you could experiment a handful of times and then kind of really get the feel for it, and then, really start making crazy stuff. Though the ones that the computer, had pre-made for you were always better than anything I could think of.
Seriously.
Some of the ones that they started with in some of the parks were just incredible, and I couldn't imagine how somebody could do it. But I think what was cool about that system is you could see everything that I would see in those crazy roller coasters. I knew I could do that. You know what I mean? It was I knew that with a little bit of practice, I could follow it step by step. And I thought just the building itself was really intuitive, and it really worked, and you could really mess around. And the other nice thing was it was more or less without consequence, with the only exception being time, and we can talk about that later. But if you added 6 pieces of track and then totally realized it was going to fall apart, you could go back, and get all your money back and that kind of thing. I guess my big complaint, if we're just kind of broadly hitting the topic, was that it was hard to tell, because the game would rate you on intensity and nausea and excitement of your roller coaster, but it was really hard to tell what, as you're building the roller coaster, where it was going. So oftentimes I'd, create these awesome roller coasters with an intensity of ultra high and a nausea of high, and except their excitement would be low. And so it was okay, it was hard to often tell what would I need to do in this roller coaster to kind of to change that. And you never quite knew how it was going to work until you kind of put the whole thing together.
And that's
So-
the end of the show. Good discussion, guys.
Yep, I've hit
Yeah, I
hit
think-
all the major points of the game. We can go home.
Pretty much.
I think that was the thing for me that was kind of difficult, was the sort of figuring out while you were building it what the rating was going to be. That was where it got a little too systemsy for me. You really had to know the systems of okay, well, if it's coming down this hill and you don't bank it, then that means that it's going to make the nausea way higher. or whatever.
Right.
Like that took a lot of like experience, and ultimately, like Jordan was talking about, I think more than anything else, the time constraints is what made me just use pre-made coasters most of the time. Or what I would do is I would get like a good start on a park with like a basic roller coaster and some other rides and, you know, the bathrooms and all the stuff that you need, and then spend like maybe 6 months making like a roller coaster that was good, because then I could kind of coast off the income off the other stuff. But yeah, the time piece of it, since most of the scenarios are like get, you know, 700 guests in 2 years, or get, you know, a park rating of 800 in 6 months, or like that kind of stuff. That's what made it tough, I think.
Yeah. I know, it really bothered me that you couldn't build while paused.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
think in 2 you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, it felt like, you know, it was weird because they gave you no penalty for creating. So, like, you know, if you built 7 segments and it cost you $75 each, and then you realized it didn't work, you could go back and erase all those segments for $75, right? And you get it back. But it seemed weird to me that, you know, like they punished you with the time, right? Because you couldn't build while paused, so you had to build these in real time. And luckily, most of the time you could get your park kind of to a point where it would manage itself. You know, you didn't have to like jump in there and suddenly add 16 mechanics because all your coasters were falling apart. You know, so you could kind of just let it run itself while you built this thing. The problem was it would be so time consuming, right? And you'd build it and you put it all together, and then you have to test it and wait for it to do the testing all the way through to check how it was, and you have to go back and rebuild some stuff. And it's like, yeah, I tried to do the sandbox mode one where you had to like get 2,000 guests in 3 years and you had no financial limitations. I thought, oh, this will be fun. I can just create all my own roller coasters. The problem was when it spent you 4 months, you know, it took you 4 months to build a roller coaster, then you've just lost all this time you could be doing building other stuff. So that's weird.
Right. That makes sense.
Penalty.
Yeah. I was gonna say it increases the realism, but you're right about how, because if they wanted to be realistic, then you wouldn't have been able to sell things back for 100%.
Exactly.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was
definitely, yeah.
That was weird to me, but I thought the system itself, you know, with the turns and the dives and the helixes and the loops, I thought was all very, very intuitive. I thought it was pretty easy to pick up and fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
I thought the coaster building was very, very well like designed.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good segue to talk about money management, since we're kind of talking about that with the coasters already anyway.
Right.
Skylar, you want to talk a little bit about money management and the guest mechanic?
Yeah, I mean, the money management mechanic, I mean, is obviously there. Because in most scenarios, you don't have infinite money, so you need to deal with like building things and making sure you're going to get money back, waiting a little while to get money depending on what you want to build. And I mean, that's the crux of this kind of simulation game, is like, how are you going to spend your money to do the optimal stuff you want to do? And yeah, so I guess that's probably where a lot of people get fun out of the game. And I guess that's probably where the developer expected people to get fun out of the game, since he didn't want to put a sandbox mode in.
Right.
In addition, the guests, like, they're very finicky. Sometimes they, like, seriously, that's, like, the best way to describe them. They sometimes want stuff. It's just like The Sims, where your Sims are like, I need to go to the bathroom. There's a bathroom over there, but I want to go to the bathroom in the kitchen. And,
oh, man, I had this one guest who would go on, like, the slowest rides and throw up. Always. So I kept placing trash cans all over for him to throw up in, and he would walk to the trash can and turn around and vomit all over the sidewalk every time. And I would watch him for a while, just going like, "What? Why are you doing this?" Why? And I had a handyman who would just follow him around, cleaning up his vomit.
Yes, 304. Why?
Yeah. And after a while, I got so sick that I built him his own little like penitentiary. This was in the second level, the dunes level. So I built him this little like Egyptian jailhouse on a plateau, and I picked him up and I dropped him in it, and I kept him there forever. As a warning to the other guests what would happen.
I love that you had like him on janitor detail, like you had someone assigned.
Yeah, I mean that was interesting, and it was one of these kind of fun, you know, managing the guests I thought was kind of fun because it was a unique system where, like, you still had to account for their needs, right? You know, so, like, Jess dropped the knowledge bomb that, like, if you put benches outside intense roller coasters, like, people get sick less often because they go and sit down, and that you put bathrooms near them, too, then they won't, you know, puke all over your floor and stuff like that. So I thought it was interesting, but it was cool that you could kind of pay attention to that. If you really wanted to maximize your, some of those really harder scenarios, you definitely have to. At the same time, you could just kind of roll with it, and
Right.
the guess like you could. It was really cool because it would like show you like summary how many like the thoughts they were having. So if there was like 50 people who were like the line for this is too long, then you knew that was maybe an issue you had to address. But at the end of the day, you really kind of didn't have to. And even when I was kind of playing fairly obliviously, like you could still get a pretty high rating. Like I'm pretty sure in one of the ones I didn't put a bathroom in for like 3 months, and so it was like, people
Make
get
it go across the street.
Oh,
Yeah.
the thing I figured out that you could do is you could line the whole entrance to your park with restaurants.
Right.
And everybody would eat right at the beginning, and then hike the bathrooms up to $1, and everyone would pay for them. And
I like how
it didn't
Josh
matter.
plays this game like the most maniacal tycoon.
Well, I built this massive coaster, right? It was like a $4,000 coaster, and I needed to recoup that investment because it was the only ride in my park.
Of course.
I made it back within like a month and a half. It was glorious.
The pathing, I think, is the most tedious thing about this game.
Agreed.
Like, trying to make a path that goes from every exit and entrance to the thing. Like, there were so many times where I would create a roller coaster that was really good, and I tested it and whatever, and then realize that, like, one of the hills comes too close and I can't put an entrance in, and have to redo the whole, like, that whole segment or whatever. Like, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, you really had to be thinking, like when you started building a roller coaster or anything, bigger than like one of the preset little rides, right? You really had to be thinking, okay, how, because the amount of like station platforms meant, how many people could it hold? And so oftentimes, it's like I put like one station platform in, create the whole ride, and then there'd only be like 3 platforms. So the ride would be like 2 minutes long, and it could only hold like 10 people. And so the queue line would get really, really filled. And so it's like you had to really be thinking on a very kind of macro and micro level whenever you created one of these. I'm like, okay, how popular do I think this ride's going to be? How many, how much space do I have to put for people to queue up, and how much space do I have to put for like the actual size of, how many people can the ride hold at once?
Right.
And then that was a whole other ball game of getting the fucking paths there.
Well, to be completely honest, I think that kind of boils down to the view. Like, I feel like if the view had been more obvious, it would have been easier to plan it. I don't know. The
Yeah,
view was
yeah, I
one of the
think
things that
that's
pissed
true.
me off a lot. Like, there were a lot of times where I'm just like, really? Why would you make it look like this?
Yeah.
And like, yeah,
I mean,
it just wasn't.
I think for me, I just kind of had gotten used to it because I played this game so much that it was just kind of like I knew how to maneuver around. And once you started, like, I pretty much hid supports on everything because that was really the only way to see stuff once you had a really big park going. Like, you just kind of got used to it. But I definitely agree that it's a weak point. I'm not saying it's not, but I think it was just one of those things that, like, I never really noticed how bad it was because I was just so used to it from playing it when I was a kid when I didn't know any different,
I see.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like I tried to make a point of never having to use the changing view, because I get used to like the view that I'm using, right? So I know where things are and how it relates to everything. So it's like having to spin around could get really annoying.
Yeah, that was the same with me. Yeah, I tried to not change
Yeah.
view, and that kind of caused problems sometimes.
Yeah.
The only time I would change view is, like, for a very short period of time of, like, I need to make this path go around this thing that I can't see. But
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I kept it at, like, I guess it was, like, southeast view, the one that you start in, where you're,
Yeah.
like, looking northwest or whatever.
Right.
So, anyway, yeah, so...
Cool.
I think we've kind of talked about a lot of stuff we were going to have Evan talk about. He had to step out because he got called in by work. So, does anyone want to talk about some of the scenery stuff, I guess, is the only thing in there we haven't talked about? I mean, I didn't find myself using scenery a ton. Like, I always felt like I was so busy trying to manage, like, having enough roller coasters, and then people got bored of one, so I'd delete it and then build a new ride, and like there was so much to do with cycling that kind of stuff out that other than trash cans and benches, I didn't find myself using a lot of the scenery, like trees and stuff, because then they ended up just getting in the way when you tried to build, I felt like.
Right.
I found scenery really interesting. I was talking about this with my brother because he picked it up to play along with me while we were, going through the last 2 weeks. And he and I found that if you place scenery strategically around the rides, it can actually change the guest rating of the ride.
Right.
So if you put like flower beds, next to a go-kart race, they find it more relaxing. If you put statues next to a roller coaster, they find it more exciting. And we found that we could actually, kind of cheese the game a little bit. Like one of the things I did is I built a cart ride, which is under, one of the more tame rides of the game. And with the cart ride, if I put it on an angle and put a bunch of statues around it, I could actually get it to like a super thrilling excitement rating.
Yeah.
So I actually had a go-kart ride that was more exciting, according to my guests, than my huge loop-de-loop roller coaster. So, scenery, it seemed small and insignificant, but you could use it, like you said, the game is stat-based. It is a little bit like spreadsheeting it out.
Right.
And if you do it right, you could actually kind of game the system a little bit.
Yeah, I found that information too when I looked it up online, because I was just, after I played around with it for, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 hours, I kind of looked online to see after I kept having this dumb, excitement rating of 1 and intensity rating of 10 kind of thing. I kind of went online to see if there was if that was a glitch or if there was some way around it. Yeah, I found out there's actually a lot of subtle things that can affect the excitement. So like if you have roller coasters that like entwine with one another, so it goes up or down or around one, that'll make it more exciting. If you put your cue lines like under the roller coaster itself, that will make people less like antsy and more patient, right? And so, yeah, I was like, it's an interesting thing. And so with Josh's point, what was funny is when I was doing one of the desert ones, I had made this like go-kart track, right? And so it was like there'd like a bunch of cactuses around. So I thought it was a pretty cool go-kart track, right? Whatever. And so what I did is it was called Cactus Racers because there were a cactus there. And so what I did is I like dotted the whole track with cactuses, right? And that go-kart thing was the fucking bee's knees. Like I had,
Did you say the bee's knees?
It was.
I think the point is over.
Boy, howdy.
I don't think you're allowed to.
Boy, howdy. That was swell, Jordan.
It was fucking selling faster than hotcakes.
God, hot cross buns or something.
But it was like I couldn't figure out like why the fuck are these go-karts so popular? I have a $2,000 roller coaster right there in a splash and it's a desert. You guys should love this shit. But there's like no, they want to fucking go on cactus racers.
It's funny and build a roller coaster for $2,000. Just saying.
Build a fucking roller coaster. You build roller coasters for $2,000.
Real life.
Okay, whatever. Moral of the story. I was like, I could not figure out why, and then I read online the thing that Josh was talking about, and I was like, must be all the goddamn cactuses. They like love racing around cactuses, so that's like why they'll sit in line forever and go on fucking cactus racers.
So then instead of
I guess for me, like
cactuses, and then all your parks just had tons and tons of cactuses.
Exactly.
I guess for me, I just never ended up putting in enough scenery to notice the change. It was always kind of like I'd put some in and then be like, oh, this looks aesthetically cool, but I don't have the time to like really manicure each roller coaster.
Well, there was always a really weird sweet spot too, where you'd have like 5 scenery and it does nothing, but 6 like all of a sudden changes everything.
I see.
So, like finding that sweet spot was definitely part of it.
Right. And to go back what Sean said, maybe this will be the last point we make on this. I felt that because I couldn't pause and build at the same time, it was like in Zoo Tycoon, I was like notorious for the cool, elaborate designs I would do with the trees and things like that because I could, right?
Notorious among your action figures.
Notorious among myself and my friends.
Notorious.
Anyway, and so like I would design these cool, elaborate entrances with waterfalls and all this kind of cool stuff, and that was just part of the sandbox, right? That was part of. Because I could do it more or less for free, I would just whatever. It'd be fun and you could draw, create these great, cool habitats. But I wanted to do more of that in this game, but because you couldn't build while paused, it was like, no, I can't afford to be working on this right now. And because everything costs you money, so like raising and lowering the ground, like you couldn't experiment with that. Because like once you raise the ground 2 things, you're like, oh shit, that was too high. You need to move it down. Well, now you've just, paid for that 3 times. So the only time I even bothered trying it was the sandbox mode, and even then because you're on a time limit, like there was just no it was hard to find the time to do that if I wanted to actually do well and not lose all my money and that kind of thing.
There we go.
Thank you, Sean.
Oh my god.
Wow, I thought for a second it was the
There you go. Oh god, no. Ugh. No, sorry, I didn't realize I had my mic muted. I was saying I was going to play Notorious for Jordan.
I think my biggest pet peeve in the game, actually, of everything, and I don't know if you guys found this, is that a scenario didn't end when you completed it. Like, so one of the missions would be like...
That's actually how I ended up doing sandbox stuff. Was like I would beat it and then just keep a saved one after I beat it.
By year 3, have a park rating of 503,000 people, right? And I never had troubles with the objectives. I would hit that by like the end of year 1.
You must not have played a lot of the later scenarios, because some of those later
even some of the later ones, I just did not have a lot of trouble. Again, you charge for your bathrooms and everything's cake. But you know,
It's because Josh is a dick.
True. I'm a kind human being, and Josh is not. Fair.
But you know, I don't know. But like, you know, so I hit the objective at year 1, way early, and then I'd have to play through the next 2 years.
Well, because that's the whole point. Is like it's not spiking up to that. It's maintaining it. That's hard.
Right, but I never felt like all of that was difficult, and sometimes it just bothered me that, again, I couldn't affect the time. I couldn't speed it up.
Yeah, I mean, there were times where I wish I could have sped things up, especially as we kind of got started with stuff. Like you get started, and then maybe you like build that one roller coaster and use, 80% of your money, and so then you're like, okay, I gotta wait till that starts paying back before I can, really do anything else. And you just kind of sit there and hear the ching, 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 ching sound over and over and over, and watch as your money climbs, $2 every time. So it would have been nice to just kind of speed through a little bit of that.
Yeah.
No,
I definitely feel like
agree with
having a fast forward would have been nice. I'm not saying it would,
True.
but yeah.
I'm just gonna say true.
Okay, so let's do some sound clips. You guys want to do that?
I hate sound clips.
Oh, that's not very nice. I mean, Josh,
Please
go
ahead.
sorry. I noticed you haven't talked about graphics yet. Sorry, Josh, talk about the graphics. Real quick.
Graphics. It's sprites.
We kind of mentioned them. They're
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but go for it.
It's mainly 2D sprites. They're cute.
cute. They look like
game's
crap,
good
kind
looking.
of.
Everything runs very smoothly. The people aren't, super well animated, but the coasters look good.
Right.
That's true.
Especially in motion, all of the rides look really good in motion.
Yeah. The game does a really good pseudo 3D, I thought, with 2D.
And when you ride your coaster, that was good.
What?
Nothing. I was making a reference to good roller coaster games where you could ride your roller coaster after you built it.
Well, try coding that in assembly.
Right.
You can do that in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3.
This game I used to play, you could ride your coaster after you built it. It was really fun, and I kind of missed that a lot in this game because that was one of the things I liked most.
That was Sim Theme Park. You could do that in.
Yeah. That's right.
You could do that in the third one, I believe.
You can do it in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3.
You can.
Okay.
But the coasters look good, the rides look good, even the go-karts look good. It's cute little things like when it's raining, your little people will buy umbrellas and they walk around with that. The whole look of your park is pretty variable. You can change the colors on everything. Overall, for a 1999 game, it's graphically somewhat impressive. There can be a lot going on at once on screen.
I almost never noticed any slowing down, even back when I was playing it on my other computer. Like, it didn't really matter how much stuff was on screen.
Well, it's like you'd have a park with, 10,000 guests, and, that's a lot of assets on the screen at once.
Yeah, but they're just sprite assets, so it's not
But they
really
still
that
show
bad.
every individual, person.
Which is better than some simulation games released can say.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Do you want to move on to sound? Oh,
okay.
Jordan,
I was just going to chime in that.
So let's give out the new SimCity again, the second week in a row.
I was just going to chime in that I thought the graphics and stuff, it ran remarkably well considering everything that it was managing, right? Like all the complex systems with the lateral Gs and vertical Gs and all the different people in there, different moods and needs. And I thought, considering all the stuff like under the hood that it was doing, it ran remarkably well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, knowledge bomb.
Definitely.
Wasn't that impressed?
All right, let's do sound clips. I don't have a ton for this.
Sean, can I drop a quick knowledge bomb?
Oh, God.
All right, a game that came out in 1999. Thank you. Crazy Taxi. Think about those graphics, and then tell me this game has good graphics.
It's different,
Yeah, but if Crazy Taxi was made by one person, it would look like this.
Right, but again, totally different art styles. That's like saying Crysis has a better graphics than, Journey.
Bastion.
Or Bastion. It's it's apples and oranges.
And
I
yeah,
agree.
there's still
I'm
fruit.
just talking about
Skylar.
it's
Usually,
not- it's-
Skylar's like the defender of the indie. I'm really
I'm
surprised
just
that
saying
you're.
it's not impressive that they did this. Like from a computer programming standpoint, it's
So,
not hard.
Wait, didn't we just talk about how he coded this in the
Assembly, it's
like-
very hard, but the fact that it runs smoothly isn't that impressive for me.
for
Yeah.
one guy?
In 4 years,
Right, but before they had all that fancy stuff you used in school.
I know. I programmed in assembly. in
Skylar's
school.
defecting on his indie brethren.
I know.
It's an indie game. This came out before there were indie games. This is the indie hipster. I hate hipsters.
Wait, I mean, I guess that depends on what our definition of indie is, because designed by one person is pretty indie, regardless of when you're doing it.
I'm very impressed that he coded in assembly. I'm just saying, talking about how it's like impressive that it's managing all this stuff, I don't think is that impressive because it's just
For 1999.
table.
Again, look at 1999.
Like I said, look at Crazy Taxi and games that are managing 3D graphics with systems. This is just 2D sprites.
Yeah, but the difference between a whole team and one person.
I know that, but
I mean, wait a second. Do you not remember that StarCraft 1 came out in 98? Are you telling me that this is less impressive than StarCraft 1? Because I would disagree.
I
Right, StarCraft did come out in 1990.
Yep.
I would say
Okay,
that this
Josh wins,
graphic-
and he gets another one of these for mentioning
Nuclear
StarCraft.
launch detected.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna stop this conversation because it's just a cycle. So let's do some sound clips. I have this is the opening screen. This is this is the sound of my childhood right here.
I'm not gonna lie, that song always reminds me of like scary carnival movies.
seriously, that's what I was about to
Yes.
say. It sounds you're just like watching children being murdered.
I don't know
You know,
about that,
those
but like
sorts
a
of things.
creepy clown, maybe.
Clown
Okay,
murdering
so-
children because they're children screaming.
The other thing that I captured, speaking of screams, I captured the screams that are at the beginning of the opening credits. I mean, it's not really credits, but the developer thing where it's going up the roller coaster hill. But only because these screams I feel like are used everywhere. I hear these screams in other games and in movies and whatever, and every time I hear one of these screams, it makes me think of Roller Coaster Tycoon. So here's
Is it like
the
a token
the ones I'm
bear
talking about.
sound that's used everywhere?
That scream is used in like tons and tons of different things, and now
I
if
think
you
I've
hear it,
seen that in
you'll think about Roller
commercials.
Coaster Tycoon.
To be fair, it was
Yeah.
probably taken from a sound library. It's probably the roller coaster.
I'm sure it
equivalent of the
was.
Wilhelm scream.
Yeah,
Right, or the
I'm
freaking
sure it
bear
was.
sound that's used everywhere.
Right? I'm
Yeah,
gonna
exactly.
go meta. I'm gonna say that these screams were way better than the supposedly scary ones in Legacy of Kain.
Ah!
Yes, I think so too. I
Agreed.
think so too.
AKA normal human screams versus elk.
Okay, so the next thing I captured was just like some ambient park noise. I just kind of moved around my park and captured. Some bathroom sounds. Okay, so
that is what my
What's
bathroom sounded like. Cha-ching,
Yeah.
cha-ching, baby.
I don't know about you, but in my park, there aren't children laughing when they come out of bathrooms, Sean. I think there's something wrong with you.
it wasn't centered on the bathroom the whole time. So there
More
was
likely
one sound that I isolated there that always creeps me out, and it's like really quiet. So I had to raise it up. But it's like, so after this laugh, there's like a wah sound or something that's really creepy to me. So here, you hear that?
What?
Wah.
No,
Right.
do it
Let's
again.
do it again.
No,
No,
You guys don't hear that at the end of that?
no.
you're just the chosen one, Sean.
Register sound, but that's not what you're talking about, right?
No. There's like
Is it-
there's like something that's like.
Is
Yeah,
it like during the laugh, like immediately at the end of the laugh,
It's-
or is it
It's like
during the
right
roller coaster?
after the laugh. No, it's like right after the
Roller
laugh.
coaster sound?
Yeah, I heard it. I think it sounded like kind of like somebody throwing up. That kind of a
Maybe
noise.
that's what it was. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe that's what it
from
was.
Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica, for clearing that.
I don't know.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
I thought that this game had the best animated vomit of 1999. You know, this
Totally.
one, I mean, I don't think Conker's Bad Fur Day was out yet, so I'm gonna give it this one.
What about your home videos where you were vomiting?
But that's not animated. That's
I mean,
real.
Oh my god.
Your life
Okay,
is just
I'm gonna
freaky
stop
anime.
this. I'm gonna stop this conversation. Let's
I'm-
go to the casual gamer desk. Jessica, do you wanna talk a little bit about casual games in general, and maybe someone who's not a self-identified gamer, what type of stuff makes people play a game if they're not playing games all the time? What gets people into it?
Sure. I can't speak for all gamers, but for all casual gamers, but at least the people that I have talked to about this, like the creativity of the game. There's no like set things that you have to do. There's nobody trying to like destroy your park or whatever that you have to like defend from. It's just kind of you making your park whatever you want it to be. You know, you can make it a theme park. You could just put roller coasters in. You could lock up your people in prisons or whatever.
Yeah.
You could make it whatever you want. And for me and people that I've talked to about this, that's what they enjoy about this, you know, the creativity, but also the kind of laid back atmosphere of it. It's kind of simple, but also can be challenging if you make it challenging.
So you wouldn't be a supporter of Roller Coaster Tycoon Nuclear Winter Edition?
I was gonna say they should make like World of Roller Coaster Craft, where you like
Oh, God.
build coasters that launch coaster cars at the opposing parks.
Wait, how is that? How is that a Blizzard IP?
It's not, but that's not the point.
No, it's
That
not.
legitimately
It's not a
made
Blizzard
it
ID. It's that fake Chinese Blizzard park that would make it.
Oh, I see.
Come on,
probably
how
what
often
Haven't you guys
does that
seen?
happen?
Haven't you guys seen pictures of that?
Yeah.
Go Google it, listeners, if you haven't.
Goggle it. On that note, did you know a Chinese company owns 1/3 of Riot Games?
I did not. But
Yep.
no kidding.
I'm waiting for
Um,
Skylar's tirade into LOL and Riot.
No, we don't have time for
Chairman
LoL
Mao.
versus Dota. We don't have time for LoL versus Dota right now.
I have to
So-
praise Chairman
So
Mao.
then, Jessica, what are some other games that have gotten their hooks in you? Are they games that are like Roller Coaster Tycoon, or different ones, or kind of what are other ones that have stood out for you?
Well, for me, I also enjoyed excuse me, Zoo Tycoon that I've played a bunch, being an animal fan. And I also enjoyed The Sims that I played constantly. Those are also games that, you know, you can make your own. You have this freedom of creativity and this kind of, you make your own world. You make it what you want it to be. It can be challenging if you want to. You can just kind of like let people go and do whatever they want to do, you know?
I'm curious, are you into Minecraft?
No, but I have gotten into Terraria.
Okay,
Thanks to
so
someone in this
fair enough.
conversation.
it's
Yeah.
Josh.
It's me.
Jordan got me into
You mean Josh?
Terraria.
No. No, but I think that's interesting coming from Jess, who is, you know, not a super hardcore gamer or anything like that, because I think, and we kind of talked about this in the beginning a little bit, this kind of, you know, juxtaposition or kind of contrast between, you know, a lot of what we see now, which we like to think of very restrictive, very structured, very scripted kind of games. I mean, obviously stuff like Call of Duty comes to mind, versus stuff like Minecraft in these games where it really leaves a lot open to the player. And so I think
Yeah.
that's interesting that Jess kind of talks about the appeal for her is something that's less structured, where I think a lot of gamers, especially nowadays, if you at least go by the, you know, kind of sales numbers and things like that, are definitely looking for more structured things. And even if you look at stuff like the new Simcity, which I will talk about.
Oh my
really
god, I hate you.
on its
Have you
design
played
level.
it, Jordan?
Like the new
Have you
SimCity.
played it?
No, hold on.
Have you played it?
The
'Cause
new
you shouldn't be
SimCity-
allowed to do this if you haven't played it.
New SimCity is very based on like designing your cities around certain like resources and things like that. So you have like a, you know, oil rig city or an iron smelting city, things like that, which is, regardless of how you feel about it, definitely a departure from, you know, the Sim City of old, which was just, here's your land, go for it. You know, I think that's just a an example to back up my point.
I disagree with you. I don't think it's actually built as much like that as you think, because I've watched a lot of videos of it.
Have I? And because your plots are so small, you really only can kind of max those out and then move on to another city. So I think
Wait, I have a question. Do either of you actually own it?
No, I neither of us own it, so this is a really bad conversation
this is a dick waving competition about who's watched more YouTube videos.
Yes. Yeah, I will win because I watch YouTube basically 24 hours a day. So
I have nothing to say about this.
Yeah,
I would say Skylar wins, but that's only because he's more comfortable waving his dick, not because he's watched more YouTube videos.
I mean, it's all those children. Anyway, so Jordan, you did something that I have to point out, which is you said juxtaposition and then defined it, which makes me think of your teacher stuff infinitely.
Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Right? You were like, juxtaposition, I mean, or contrast, and I'm like, that's the same word.
Yeah, well, they just got done, because I teach an integrated class, so they just got done doing a big unit on juxtaposition, which is probably why the word first came to mind.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Okay,
good way to point that out.
Also, good way to relate what we just talked about to children.
Yeah, exactly. Going from Skylar touching children to Jordan talking about how he works with children. That's a great segue.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I need an adult.
I don't either. That's why I'm trying to wrap it up. So Jessica, do you have anything else in general that you want to add before we move into the end of the show here, into our wrap up and whatever?
Well, what would you? So I don't know if they're ever going to make like a Roller Coaster Tycoon 4 or something, but what's something that you think Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, because I know you've played that a fair amount too. What would you say is something that you would really like to see them do in a later iteration of Roller Coaster Tycoon, and something you would really like them not to do?
That's a good question.
Well, there are some things that I dislike about Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Like some of the tutorials are weirdly specific. Like they're in the tutorial modes, there's like advances. So you start out in like an apprentice, and then you go to like entrepreneur, and then you move to tycoon, which I think is very cool. But some of them are oddly specific. Like to move up to the next level, you have to make so many roller coasters that have, level 5 intensity or more, which just to me seems oddly specific for like, which I don't really appreciate, because it limits my creativity to make the park my own.
Right.
So I would kind of get rid of that, but I do like the tiers of the levels.
Cool.
And something that I think Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 had that Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 didn't have was kind of, it wasn't like you didn't have objectives, but you could start a park as your own and build it up based off of, you had like a set limit of money, and you could make more money and kind of build your own park, not based off of like objectives or anything.
So basically a sandbox mode.
It wasn't, you didn't have an unlimited amount of money.
Okay. I see.
But I really enjoyed that. And Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 doesn't have it, so I would add that back in.
That's a good point.
Would you also make smaller roller coaster plots or amusement park plots and multiple amusement parks that you could connect to with your friends?
Jessica, that's a loaded question.
Where you only start with 2 types of roller coasters, but for $2.99 you can buy new types of roller coasters.
And it's also always online.
Yeah, that's
and if you pre-ordered it, and the only way to get the transport rides was if you pre-ordered at GameStop, and if not, then you have to pay another $5.99.
Right, and if you pre-order it in general, you end up getting a free game because their servers can't support it.
But when you try and download that free game, it crashes because their servers can't support the download.
I never saw. Was there a list of free games? I was wondering if they were gonna like cheat people out.
There were only 6 you could pick.
Were they like, recent games?
Phase 3 and stuff like that. It was not unsubstantial.
Well, that's not too bad.
We forgot to talk about the single most important part of Roller Coaster Tycoon, though.
What?
Killing people on roller coasters?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, did nobody else like build a roller coaster cannon at any point where it's like a half?
Oh, of course.
Track,
I've done that a ton of times.
You put it like right next to your really full pathway, and then the track just ends, and you set it on test. and the roller coaster
Like
car
that-
goes flying off the end and kills everyone.
Like that GIF that I put in our Facebook conversation, John.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Like
I-
that's the most.
I would say the
important part
one-
of the game.
The one that ended up crashing for me the most on accident was like a lot of the water rides. If
Right.
you made them go too fast and then you didn't have a high enough hill afterwards, they would just kind of shoot off, and that really sucked when you tested that. Because then once you have a crash, your park's rating goes way down, and people get scared and they leave and whatever.
You know, it's actually
so-
possible to kill people with a go-kart ride. I found that out on accident.
Josh continuing his mustache twirling maniacal tycoon.
Now, the coolest thing I found out though was that if you have a roller coaster skip rails, it can actually land back on the coaster and keep going.
Really?
That's pretty
I
cool.
built one where, kind of abusing the physics engine, it went through a massive drop and then a really quick pop-up, and the roller coaster would actually pop off the rails and fly through the air and land on the back on the coaster.
Pixar, it didn't
Huh.
happen.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think it was
GIFs or it didn't happen.
But
Seriously.
Even though everyone would survive, every time it would run, it would still treat it as a crash. So my rating
Yeah.
would go lower every time it would run, but nobody got hurt.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's move on. We're kind of running out of time here, so let's move on to quick attacks and keep these very quick this week. Jordan.
Hey!
So Jordan, why don't we go with you first? What's your quick attack? What have you been playing?
So I've been playing StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. I originally was going to hold off on getting it because while I really wanted to play the campaign, I've been watching a lot of like beta stuff, but I hadn't really been interested in playing a lot of the multiplayer. And then I watched the big kind of release thing that Blizzard did, which was awesome, and it was just like, all right, screw it, I want to play it. And I heard the game.
Yay, marketing.
Well, the other thing is, I really wanted to play the campaign because I thought the Wings of Liberty campaign, you know, you can say what you want about the writing or whatever, but was really well done for an RTS campaign.
Oh, I loved Wings of Liberty.
Yeah, so I was really looking forward to that, and I have to say, Heart of the Swarm is without a doubt the best, you know, RTS campaign I've ever done. The like in-game cinematics that they do, like in-engine cinematics, are incredible, and the missions are fun, and the evolution things are awesome, and Kerrigan is a badass, and it was very, very well done. I thought
It's the best.
I'll have to talk to you after the show because while I thought that the missions were very fun and everything, I thought that the overall writing for where the story going was far inferior to Wings of Liberty.
I don't know. I felt like it's kind of like,
I felt like it wasn't StarCraft anymore. They were going Warcraft with ancient gods and learning ancient powers from big, you know, monsters and like
That's
it
kind of
didn't-
how the Zerg are, though, in general.
Right, but
like,
to me, StarCraft was always Starship Troopers, and then it became Lord of the Rings. Like, and you know, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's my old argument to Blizzard: you don't have to have Lovecraftian elder gods in every single IP.
well, here's how I felt, and this was the Wings of Liberty 2, and then I promise I'll wrap up my quick attack because this is becoming a slow attack. It's the writing is not. I mean, it's not Shakespeare. It's not great. It's not Bastion, where I walk out of the end of it like, holy shit, what an incredible story. But it does what it needs to do, right? It moves the thing along. It's engaging. Some of the side characters, like in a lot of Blizzard games, were remarkably well written. Abathur definitely being the highlight of that.
Absolutely.
So, like, yes, was the story kind of cliche? And yes, were there really no surprises? And yes, you know, it went exactly as I expected it would. Is the writing great? No, but it's like a mid-grade comic book. You know, it's like at the end of the day, it's not the greatest writing ever, but it gets you from point A to point B, and you enjoy your time on the way. So that will say, Art of Swarm is awesome. If there's anybody out there who doesn't have it, you definitely should get it.
I don't have it. Jordan, your quick attack is like solar beam. You have to charge up for a turn before you finish.
What I have to do is I have to like start talking, then just stop, let everybody else do their quick attacks, and then I would finish.
Fair enough. It's more like counter or something that goes at the end, or trick room. Trick room's the coolest ability in Pokemon. I'm gonna throw that out there right now.
Jesus Christ.
I just want more
Okay.
Mirahan in my StarCraft games.
Oh,
Yeah,
Matthew.
she's a cool character. Okay, so I'll just, since I also played Heart of the Storm, I'll just piggyback on Jordan's really quick. Jordan and I
Gross.
both did casting in Wings of Liberty, and I think we were both really into it, and then kind of both took a break. Him to play Dota, and I played a lot of League and other stuff. And it's kind of cool coming back to it now. I think the multiplayer stuff. I mean, Jordan speak to the campaign, so I agree with him on pretty much all of that. But as far as the multiplayer stuff goes, I've noticed it makes the matches a lot more fun to watch. There's a higher skill cap. There's a lot more micro and stuff that I could never do. So it's really cool when you watch pro players and be like, oh my god, I can't believe they used that unit that way. I could never do that. As opposed to in Wings of Liberty, like that stuff existed, but it was more like, yeah, I could probably practice and get that because it's more like 1A while having a harass unit on your second key or something.
I just as a side note, watching the MLG last weekend is the most fun I've had in esports in a long time. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah. MLG was the
transition.
Yeah, pretty much right after
It's
release. MLG was the first, was the second tournament after IEM had used Heart of the Swarm also.
It was so much fun to watch.
And I'm pretty sure the VODs are free on MLG if you go to the Major League Gaming website. You can check them out. And it's cool. So anyway, that's what I've been playing. Josh, what have you been playing?
I have been going back actually, and I played the Dead Space 3 DLC. I consider it different enough to give its own quick attack. I know I talked about Dead Space 3 before. I really enjoyed the game. I know a lot of people said it wasn't as horror as it should have been, but again, it's the whole aliens to alien thing. You know, if you've played through it 3 times, the same scares aren't going to scare you. That said, the Awakened DLC, which was $9.99, it took me about an hour and a half on normal difficulty, a little longer on higher difficulty, was unbelievably good. Really good from a story standpoint. The writing was fantastic, and it was scary in a way that the games have not done. This was a great example of innovating on the scares, you know, really just keeping you on your toes. And it was terrifying. Like, it was as good as the first Dead Space in scares.
Awesome.
And it sets up nicely.
Dead Space 3 for the DLC, is what you're saying?
Well, I was going to say, that presents the natural question of why couldn't that have been part of the actual...
Well, because, again, I liked Dead Space 3 as a game. You know, I've played through it.
But did you like it as a Dead Space game?
Yes, I did. But the same way, I liked Dead Space 2. And it's that whole thing, you know... Look at the Resident Evil series. There are people who will say that Resident Evil 6 was the greatest game ever, when everybody really knows that it should be Resident Evil 4. Everyone should know that. But, you know, the same way that people originally chastised 4 for saying that it was too action-y and not scary enough. And it's like, it's that whole, there are some people who love Amnesia: The Dark Descent, right? And then there are some people who find the first Resident Evil scary, and you're never going to please everyone. But you know, I think that the Dead Space games are fun. I think that they're scary. And, you know, I think that just because you have guns doesn't mean that a game's, you know, not scary. The same way there are games without guns that I don't think are scary. Like Amnesia. I didn't find Amnesia frightening at all.
But did you not find it environmentally awesome?
I found it to give me a headache because the whole thing's in a fisheye lens the whole time.
Oh my god, you are such a hipster, pretentious.
Josh, that really did strike a. I didn't find Amnesia scary at all.
Like, I'm not saying Amnesia's not a good game, but I'm not saying it to be like, oh, I'm so tough. I didn't find Amnesia scary. I'm saying it to be like,
I'm saying that you have immersion problems if you didn't find Amnesia good.
No, I found Amnesia very immersive, but I didn't find it scary.
Sean, you need to go into editing and then edit out everything Josh said outside of, oh, I didn't find it scary at all. And then,
yeah, I agree.
You did.
My point will be valid.
I've been kind of stuck between Red Faction Armageddon and actually Mr. Sean Cannell got me XCOM Enemy Unknown.
No.
For my birthday, so I've been trying to play that a lot, which is awesome, and I really appreciate it, Josh. Wow, Sean.
Hey,
just
you know
just take all the credit, Josh.
Yes.
Punch in the face.
Yep,
As
it's
you
true.
deserve.
Yeah, that's what I got. Okay, what's your 2 cents wrap up, Evan? Spoiler alert.
I really like the game. You know, I think it stands out for being, you know, a game from 1999. I think it's still very fun. Although I'm not all too into these games, I still enjoyed it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ghost of Evan.
Nice. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, Evan, sorry we got you in trouble at work. I'll
Don't
see you
worry
later.
at all. Yeah.
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Later, bro.
Alright,
Don't get
bye, Ev.
tired.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay. All right, Skylar, what have you been playing?
I'm trying to decide what to say. I think I've been playing Drunken Robot Pornography, which is a new game from Dejobon where it's like a first-person bullet hell game kind of, but it's an alpha, so I'm not going to talk about it. I've been playing Bit Trip Runner 2. I know I talked about Bit Trip Runner a while back. So Bit Trip Runner 2 came out pretty recently, and it's like, as far as like rhythm platformers go, it's the best rhythm platformer I've ever played, and I think that it's got 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 on like everywhere. Its Metascore is like 86. So
Exactly, it's a rhythm platformer.
for an indie rhythm platformer though, those never get that high of scores. Like everyone's like the
No,
mechanic
what
gets
is
boring.
fun? For those of us who aren't in the know.
So what you do? Yeah, I thought everyone knew what those were. God, you're so dumb. So Bit Trip Runner is really simple. It starts out with one button, which is jump, and like it's an auto side scroll, so you're moving to the side, like to the tempo of the music, and then there's obstacles in your way that you have to avoid. So it's like lots of Flash games used to do this, but
Oh, so it's like Cannibalt.
The
yeah,
game
but
for
it's
me
true
that brings
rhythm,
up is
and you don't control
Patapon.
your speed.
Did anyone play Patapon, or is it just me?
Yeah, oh god, I love Patapon.
PSP. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's true
what I
rhythm,
think.
and you don't control your speed, and then there's a bunch more mechanics there. Introduce different obstacles. There's like different paths you can take, hard paths, easy paths. There's like tons of difficulties, and there's like hundreds of levels, and it's very fun if you like that kind of gameplay mechanic. If you don't like the rhythm, like just dodging obstacles while you're auto scrolling mechanic, then you're not gonna like it. But the music and everything is really well executed.
But does it have Stay Crunchy?
No, it doesn't. Well, as far as I know, it doesn't, and that is why it doesn't have 100 Metascore and only 86.
Did you
It doesn't have Stay Crunchy.
did you like
It's
Stay
Metascore.
Crunchy being at the end of the show last week, Josh or
Yes,
Jordan?
I loved it.
I meant Skylar.
I
I
did-
said both of the
I
other
loved it.
two, except for.
My name is not Rick.
Oh God. Okay. So let's do 2 cents wrap ups really quick. I guess for me it was really awesome coming back to Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I loved it just as much now as I did when I was a kid, and that was a fun thing because I feel like most of the time games degrade over time, and then I'm like, why did I like this? But for this game, I didn't feel like that at all.
Boom.
I'm gonna
That's a
contrast
2 cents
that.
wrap up. It's actually 2 sentences, unlike
Nice.
Jordan's. Okay, Josh, go next.
Hey.
It's a timeless game. I played it, no, oh god, almost 20 years ago, like 15 years ago, and it was great. I played it yesterday, and it was great. And in 10, 15 years, I'll probably play it again, and it'll still be great. It's a great example of games aren't limited by their technology and graphics. If you've got a good concept and it's fun, it's going to stay fun.
I totally agree. Okay,
Yeah.
Jordan, give us your 10 cents wrap up.
Hey, I just want to point out that Josh's quick attack was much longer than mine. And my quick attack was also
No, it
long
wasn't.
because he wanted to have a
You
discussion.
already wasted your 2 sentences. You're done.
There's
All
your
right,
2
I'll go.
sentences. Okay, Skylar,
Wait, no,
give us your
no,
2
no.
cents wrap up, Skylar.
Hey,
Well, I'm gonna say sandbox games are fun when you're 13, and kind of fun when you're older too.
There's a 2 cents wrap up. All
I'm
right.
not sure I get it, but okay.
Jordan, do your fucking wrap up.
Thank you, assholes. This game, like Josh said, is timeless. I was very, very impressed at how much I enjoyed it, despite never having played it when it originally came out. And this is probably the only game that we've done on the show that I would pretty much without reservation recommend to anybody listening.
Not Age of Empires.
Not Painkiller Overdose?
Not Overlord.
I think Age of Empires, if you're not into that genre, you're not going to like. That being said, I think even if you're not super into the tycooning genre, you can still definitely get $3 worth of fun out of this because it's only $3 on GOG. So
Yeah.
without
That's how much
Jordan, just
Jessica
saying-
usually
Just
pays
saying
for bonus
and
shows.
between everything doesn't make it a 2 cents wrap up.
I'm a teacher. It's 2 sentences. Thank you very much.
Okay, Jordan's done. So next show, Jordan will have
Wait.
0 sentences. Jordan, every time you use up your 2 sentences, that's using them up for future shows. It's like pay as you go.
So there's going to be like 8 shows where you just have no wrap up allowed.
I'm like the government. I can keep borrowing. There's no sentence limit here. All right. The Congress of Jordan has
We're
come
gonna
to
hit
sense
this
it.
wrap up ceiling.
There's no wrap up ceiling. There's no
Wrap up ceiling.
no. No, the Congress of Jordan has managed to avert this catastrophe without the sacrifice of
You don't have
thousands.
connections to Jordan. Don't try to push that weight around.
Okay, can I hear Jessica's 2-sentence wrap up? Because it's got to be way
Yeah,
more interesting.
please, for the love of God.
Yeah,
Give us a real 2-sentence wrap up, Jessica.
for the love of all that is 2 sentences.
My opinion. Yay.
All right, that's one.
Okay,
I really enjoyed it. It brought me back to my childhood, and since I bought it, I'll probably play it again. For fun.
Nice. Nice. See,
that's how you do it.
See how simple that was, Jordan? Jesus. Okay, Jordan's
just
fired.
as much
Jessica,
information as yours.
All right, that's it. I'm off this podcast. You can replace me with
Good.
Jessica.
okay,
Yay!
Jordan rage quits.
Except
Jessica's
I'm
on. Permanent host.
Wonderful.
Jordan,
It
you
is.
get no severance package. There's no golden parachute for this show.
Yeah.
We're getting paid.
No, we're
I
not
know.
getting paid, but there's a severance package still. It's only what you
Jordan,
get.
I don't pay you a fucking double-digit salary for nothing, Jordan.
No, you pay me a 0-digit salary.
That's not anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, that's not even
All right.
0.
All right, I'm going to wrap this show up. That's the end of the show. You can email us at 5on5podcast@gmail.com. You can
Right.
follow us on the Twitter at 5on5podcast to know when the stream goes live and when our shows go up. Give us feedback on the show, suggestions for improvement. Tell us your memories of these games or what you experienced in your playthrough. We'd love to hear it. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Facebook at 5on5 Gaming Podcast on Facebook. And our next game is going to be Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 on Steam for $5. So pick that up. We're going to be playing it. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited. The guy in the picture looks like Wolverine on Steam.
This is the highest rated game I've ever played, for the record. It
Yeah,
has
this is going to be the
91
highest rated game we've played. So this has a lot to live up to. So thanks for joining us. Jessica, thank you for joining us to be our special guest.
Yeah, thank you guys for inviting me on.
Skylar, do you have anything to say to the people while we leave?
Peace up, A state capital city down.
All right, Skylar, for the next show, you have to be able to say that with all 50 state capitals.
I saw a funny meme. I was like 420 degrees, braise it.
Skylar is the best example of why you shouldn't smoke weed that I can think
I
of.
don't. I have never smoked anything in my entire life.
He just braces it, Josh.
Find us on Facebook.
And yeah.
Wait.
Oh yeah, our
I have an
Facebook.
important- I have an
Facebook.
important new segment entitled "Skylar's Education Minute." I would like to tell you some excerpts from the Urban Dictionary definition of "peace up, A town down." Peace up means peace. The up part is used because peace up is usually followed by a city that is down. Furthermore, this guy is pissed about peace up, A town down. He said, a politically incorrect nickname for Atlanta, Georgia. Just to let y'all know, Atlanta is not a town, but it is a city, and to be more specific, the capital city of Georgia. If any of y'all know Usher, Lil Jon, or Ludacris, please tell them that they need to get right.
Okay, Josh. So get on that. Our next game is going to be.
I'll call up my homies. Yo.
Yeah. Exactly.
Peace up, A town down, right? Peace up, A state capital down.
Okay. Well, now you have to say that to be politically correct at the end of the show.